Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this conversation on the art of editing literary translations. This event is hosted by the British Centre for Literary Translation and supported by the University of East Anglia, the National Centre for Writing, Arts Council England, and the Italian Cultural Institute. I'm Michele Hutchison. I translate from Dutch and sometimes French. I started my career as translations editor before going on to become a translator myself when I moved to the Netherlands. I'll be talking today to Tamara Sampey-Jawad, and she's going to introduce herself as well.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Michele. I'm the associate publisher of Fitzcarraldo Editions, and Fitzcarraldo Editions is a independent publishing house specializing in literary fiction and long form essays. We used to only publish contemporary books, but a few years ago we started a classics list, and then this year we've launched a poetry list. And I work across all aspects of the list. So, I mean, I should have said also half of the books are in translation. So I work on the English language side and translation side and fiction and non-fiction.
So let's first talk about the big picture of your life as an editor. And I just wondered, how many books do you have to work on at once?
I don't know. Someone was asking me this the other day about whether or not I edit multiple, but I mean, you do edit multiple books at the same time because inevitably books are at different stages of progress. I mean, one of the things that I really like about editing and working in publishing is that, especially working in a small publishing house, is that you really get to be a part of a book from very early on, all the way through the process until a book comes out. So I work on maybe 6 to 8 books a year. So I'm probably thinking about 3 or 4 at any one time, I suppose. Yeah.
How long do you have to edit a book?
That will really depend, to be honest with you. We're publishing a book by Samar Yazbek, which is an oral history on Gaza, and Larry Price, who's translating, delivered yesterday, and we're publishing that in May because it's very timely. So there's not going to be a huge amount of time to edit that, whereas maybe an English language book that's taking time, or it's a non-fiction book, I'll be checking in with an author or something. So I think it will really depend on the project, the amount of time I'll spend on a text.
I found myself as an editor that I didn't have much time to edit translations in particular, that the turnaround was maybe a week or two. I don't know if that's your experience or whether it's easier these days because you've got fewer books to work on and you have a bit more time than that.
I think again, it will depend on the length of the book, but I probably would, yeah, I would probably try to turn around a book within 2 weeks and a month, just based on the fact that obviously there's other stuff going on. But yeah.
And are you editing in the office or are you editing at home?
No, I have to edit at home. I mean, depending on where I am at a certain point in a text, I can maybe try and like sneak a little checking of things in the office. But I think I need, yeah, you don't want distractions.
Yeah.
And I like to block off kind of a sustained amount of time to do it, because I think you need to be able to lose yourself in the text and yeah, you can't, for me, I can't do it in dribs and drabs.
Yeah. So someone's already just posted a question, which was a general outline of the whole process and who's doing which stages, which I'll pick up immediately because we're talking about the general big picture right now. So who's doing which stages? So I presume you've commissioned the book and you also will edit the translation. Perhaps by stages she means like copy editing and proofreading.
Yes. Usually I will have commissioned the book and then I will edit the translation, and then we use freelance copy editors and proofreaders at Fitzcarraldo. And then sometimes if a book has gone through lots of changes or whatever, someone else will read it in-house. We're a little bit unusual. I mean, again, this is one of the lovely things about working for a small company, is that, you get to be a part of sort of a more varied aspects of putting a book out into the world. And editors usually also work on production at Fitzcarraldo Editions. So yeah, I'll also often be doing some production work, but that's not orthodox.
When you say production, like, do you mean you're like typesetting the manuscript, or what part of
Well, no, we
production?
send the book off. Our creative director typesets all the books, and then we'll internally make most of the changes that need to be made from proofreading, etc.
Ah, right. So do you check the copy edits yourself?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Another practical question that I had for you was that how do you prefer to have translations delivered by a translator? Like, do you want them with a lot of explanatory notes? I often hesitate myself in how much I want to explain when I deliver the manuscript, how much I want to explain the choices I made and the reasons I've done certain things, or things that are repetitions that might be in the original. Would you like the translator to explain that or not?
I think broadly speaking, I don't necessarily want a huge number of notes. I think because I want to sort of I want to be encountering the text as a reader and maybe seeing where things are working and not working, and then being able to have that immediate impression. But if there are maybe like broader stylistic questions or ethical dimensions or anything of that kind, that I think that the translator, that would be helpful for me to sort of have various options in mind when I'm reading a text, and I think it can be quite helpful to have that. So I'm kind of already thinking, okay, it could be this way or whatever. I maybe have a firmer sense of the thoughts in mind, but I don't necessarily think I want to have not obviously you wouldn't have every choice, but so many choices validated beforehand. I mean, I think part of the process is often, if it works, it works. And then if it's not working, it'll be me questioning and being like, what's the intention here? And I think that's quite helpful to know that it maybe it's not landing.
Right, yeah, definitely. And sometimes there's things that I know are going to read as slightly odd in the English because they're odd in the original text as well. And yeah, it's very tempting to say this is odd because it's odd. And then
Yeah.
if you don't say that and the editor comes back with, this is really odd, you're like, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
I still
But I
think
mean,
that's part of the conversation, I suppose, isn't it? Like, I think you want to,
yeah.
yeah.
What do you talk to the translators about beforehand? So say you've commissioned a translator to do a translation, do you then have a conversation about how to tackle various issues in the book, or I suppose you send out house style notes to you? What goes on beforehand before the translator starts work?
Yes, I mean would send style notes and would maybe also give an outline of what the editorial process is going to be like and the various stages. And it will really depend on the book and the translator and the relationship between the translator and the author. So I think it's kind of quite hard to say like a hard and fast rule, because sometimes, you know, translators and authors will have already worked together and they've got a very good relationship, and other times maybe we're the link in between the two as the publishing house. So
Mm.
that can be quite different. But I think, and it will also depend on whether or not there are broader stylistic questions to talk about beforehand, or at what stage, or we'll maybe flag certain things early on and then I'll say, let's discuss it further when there's more, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite often the case that something um, might be difficult because the culture handles sexuality differently, or
Yeah.
something sensitive that's kind of differently treated in the source text than it would be in English. And I think it's maybe good to have those conversations before you start. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something like that, which is maybe quite nuanced. It's good to
Mm.
have those conversations beforehand. But by and large, I think it's probably better to maybe have more conversations when there's been a delivery or a partial delivery, so that
Yeah.
something that I can grapple with. If I can't read the original language, which is most of the time, then it's a bit easier for me to be able to sort of think through the complications.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're saying just only discuss like very basic things beforehand if necessary, and then the main conversation is going to happen like after the translation has been delivered in the editing process.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Or for
and will you
example,
go?
well, I was going to say I did prepare a little example to talk through for today, and I suppose one of the things is um I had this in mind because I'm just we've got another book by this author called Balsam Karam, who's a Swedish writer, coming out in April next year. And the first book that we did of hers, which was The Singularity, they're both translated by Saskia Vogel. That we had a lot of conversations in that book, and less this time round, but that's because Balsam has a very distinctive style. Not many commas, very unusual word ordering, and we had a lot of these kind of discussions to grapple with at the very beginning of publishing her, and I think we had a bit more of a sense of how to deal with them this time round. But with that book, before Saskia properly delivered or officially delivered, she had a draft that she'd done, and then she wanted to sort of talk about it with me before she polished it up and sent it over. So she sent me the translation, and I might share my screen so that I
Yes,
can
please do. Yeah.
show the opening line of the text.
Yeah.
I think hopefully everyone can see that now. So
Yeah.
the very early draft, this is again, this is the opening bit of the text. It's meanwhile, somewhere else, just as the light turns green and the cars along a coastline prepare to leave the city and continue out to half desert and mountains, more slowly than ever, a woman crosses the highway, which is all along with the corniche that keeps the ocean rising higher and the haze away from the city centre and beyond. And the conversation that we had then was I suppose a big part of it was to do with the idiosyncratic nature of the prose and the minimal commas and by and large what Saskia and I kind of talked about was that I was saying, feel free to sort of try and lean into that, and then I'll maybe come in and I'll restrain it. I want to not dilute the specificity of the original prose, but if it's not working in English, it's not working in English. So after she submitted and then we worked on a round of edits, the final text I've got here. And broadly speaking, as we worked on the text, the decisions that we made were we were going to add more punctuation to sort of help with the clarity, but to keep the kind of unusual word ordering. And then we also, in this instance, trimmed something ever so slightly in the text because we wanted the power to really be there at the very beginning, and obviously that required sign off from Balsam Karam, and she agreed with it. So this is the final text. Meanwhile, elsewhere, just as the light turns green and the cars along a coastline prepare to leave the city towards the half desert and the mountains, more slowly than ever, a woman crosses the highway, which, along with the corniche, is all that holds the ocean ever rising at bay. So I'll stop sharing now. But yeah, so they're obviously similar, but I guess I just wanted to have that as a bit of
But
an
I had loads of
example.
questions about
Oh,
that.
okay. Shall I bring it back up? Okay.
Yeah, bring it back up a set. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you add hyphens to start with? That because you felt they were like more that was a way of normalizing it, wasn't it, in English?
Yes, I think it is. And
Yeah.
I think it was just to sort of help with the clarity because I think you can, this is such a powerful text and there's also a lot of silence and a lot of blank pages. But then there were certain moments where I felt the power was lost when there wasn't a lot of punctuation and we wanted to kind of allow things to sort of have a bit of space. So I think that having the dashes there just sort of helped to
Do, do you feel
delineate.
like English text, the English reader needs more clarity than the Swedish, isn't it? And the
Well, I
Swedish
mean, that
reader.
was I don't know Swedish, but the conversations that I've had, I think, is that there's maybe a little bit more latitude for that in Swedish than maybe in English.
Mm.
And this is a really, really powerful book. It's about motherhood and migration and grief and loss, and it demand something of the reader, and I don't necessarily want that to go completely, but I think you want the clarity to be there so that it's still really affecting and powerful. So yeah, my understanding, I think, is maybe that we need a bit more of that in English, and I suppose that's my role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you took away here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the haze away from the
Yeah.
city center. And I think that it's just because it ended up being very confusing with what the subject was, and that image became kind of lost that keeps the ocean rising higher and the haze away from the city center. It felt very convoluted, and I think it was a bit hard to pass. And so,
Yeah.
and the ocean is this, this is a book as well that is sort of doesn't have a fixed definitive place, I think, because Balsam Cram wants the emotions and the experience of the characters to be the thing that is recognizable, as opposed to simply sort of saying this is, a refugee crisis X, in the world. So I don't know, the Corniche and the city and the mountains and the ocean, they have a kind of totemic significance in the text, and yeah, cutting it and having it simpler made it more punchy, I think, and I hope people find it.
I'm just going to confess to not knowing what a corniche is.
Right. So it's basically, this was another conversation that we also had as to whether or not to change it, but it's basically like a promenade along the sea. And it's a French term. And I suppose one of the famous ones is in Beirut. So I think partly there is a sense of the city potentially like of having echoes of Beirut in it, but it's not meant to be Beirut. But yeah, that was a conversation we also had whether or not to change it. But I think the point is as well that it's not completely commonplace in Swedish either. So yeah, it still felt productive.
So that felt like maintaining local flavour,
Yeah, well, I
keeping
mean,
that word. Yeah.
I guess the point is it's still something slightly not familiar to a Swedish reader. So I think it's fine if it's not immediately available to you as an English reader. You'll work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll look it up.
yeah, exactly.
And so this haze that has gone, you didn't add it in later or anything. It wasn't the kind of compensation of taking out here and moving it.
No, that just cut. But there are lots of repetitive. This is again a text where images and phrases reoccur and come back, and so there were moments of I think one of the things, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is that some things you will lose in translation, like that's part of it, but then maybe you can add a new layer that's not available in the original language into the translation. So I can't think of an example now. It was a long time since I worked on this book, but yeah, I suppose you if you take things away, you can also add them.
Yeah. That's what I do as a translator. If I take something out, I move it because I don't feel like I can leave stuff out. I think it's
Yeah.
the next step is for the editor to actually take things out.
Yeah.
Obviously
Well, as I
asking
said,
the author.
this was with the author sign off. So this was a conversation that
Yeah.
was had with the author. So yeah, I wouldn't
And
complete
did you have
without
to
that.
justify each change you made to the author, or did they just give you like blanket permission to cut repetitions and slightly simplify convoluted imagery?
Yeah, well, we're lucky, I suppose, and this will also depend, but that she has a very good level of English. So I suppose it was, I just where things, had suggestions, she broadly speaking agreed with most of them. I mean, I can't remember now. I'm sure there were some where she didn't, but I think she was very open to rendering the text in English in ways that maybe work if certain repetitions are more noticeable in Swedish than in English than in Swedish, then yeah.
Let's stop sharing your screen and move on to that particular triangle of the author and the editor and the translator. So how much contact do you normally have with the authors, and how does that relationship, that process work?
I think like I said, it will really vary, and I'm sure you can kind of come in on this as well. Like, sometimes I suppose you have very close like authors and translators have very close relationships, and other times maybe as the editor of a book, I'm the kind of the in between, and maybe there haven't been lots of conversations ahead of time, and then it will be sort of more the editorial questions that come up afterwards that will be going to the author. Some authors don't seem to sort of just don't have a hands-off approach.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I mean, I suppose, what's your experience? I can imagine, you're maybe better placed.
I really like being in touch with the author and being able to ask all my questions ahead of delivery. So I like if I can I make a list and meet with them, or at least email and say, what do you mean exactly? Can I do this? Can I do that? Are you okay with this change or whatever? And then deliver it. I think that might be annoying for the author if then the editor comes back with a further set of changes because they've felt like they've already done the work with the translator, and then the editor comes in and says, oh, now all these things have to happen as well. But there's obviously some authors who just disengage and say, I trust you, do your thing, and I'm too busy to answer questions because there's 25 translators working into all these languages and I don't have time, which is also valid if that's the case. And there's sometimes there are publishers that don't want me to contact the author. I did a translation last year and the publisher said, we'll contact the author with our questions. Don't you bother them. So that can also happen.
Yes, I don't. I mean, I'm happy to be a conduit, but I think obviously, especially if I can't be involved in the conversation, in terms of, but there's not really much point in that. But I mean,
what do you do about authors that are too hands-on? So that's often the case with Dutch authors and presumably Swedish ones who have reasonably good English, is that they want to get involved in every word sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is, a lot of the time they do have lots of really, really great insight and good ideas, and they're really, really helpful to the process. But I think the problem is sometimes they're not used to writing in English, and so number one, maybe sometimes those suggestions aren't always entirely idiomatic, or they're maybe not coming at it with the creative flair that a translator whose job it is can do that. So I think sometimes it's managing expectations
and being very tactful as well, obviously. In how you kind of let them down and saying, sorry, your suggestions are not really helpful.
I mean, it's just a question of, it's completely understandable. I'm also incredibly conscious of the fact that an English language translation is a very big deal for lots of authors, and they can be very nervous and anxious about it, and that completely makes sense. So I think it's also just important to have the conversations and to explain the thinking, really.
So you this translation was from Swedish, which you don't read, but you do read a number of languages. You told me earlier. So what's the difference between editing a translation from a language you do read and one that you don't?
Yeah, I mean, I only read French, so that's the only one that I can work from. And I guess with that, I'm able to consult the original if I feel like something's not quite landing, or I have and then I'm making a judgment, or I'm offering a suggestion based on something that I have a sense of. Whereas with languages that I don't know, I'll be maybe rephrasing or making smaller tweaks or things, but for bigger changes, I'm sort of maybe leaping into the dark a little bit more, and I'm offering suggestions, but I'm I think I'm a bit more searching and questioning and saying, like, is this the direction we should be going in, or I'm perhaps picking up on things, but I'm not necessarily, I don't know what's gone wrong. Gone wrong is maybe not quite the right term, but I'm maybe
what's awry, what's slightly off, and do you think you see that whether you can read the original or not. I mean, you'd see that in a translation from French, just as you'd see it in a translation from Italian, presumably. So I
Yeah,
think
I
you
think
develop a knack for seeing where
yeah.
it's not quite.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah,
I guess when you know the language, you can be like, ah, yeah, this is slightly off, but I see why, and I can maybe say like, what about this?
yeah,
And I kind of know. Whereas
yeah,
when I don't know, I'll be like, I don't know what's wrong, exactly what's off, but something's off,
yeah,
and I wonder about this or I wonder about that, but it's yeah, it's maybe more sort of saying like I can sense something's can you explain more? Like, what's the intention here? What's meant to be? I need a bit more elucidation from the side of the translator to help make the
yeah, yeah,
making processes. And yeah, and I suppose it depends on what the source language is like. There are more yeah, I think when a language isn't doesn't have a Latin alphabet and has a very different root and grammar and everything, there are things that maybe will pop up and I'll notice, I'll feel it, it doesn't quite make sense, and then you'll realize it's because there's such a gap between the grammars of the two
yeah.
languages that you've got to maybe come up with a more creative process together to think of a
So
solution that works.
would you be more daring in what you do as an editor when it's from a language that's further from English? Like, would you like completely turn the sentence around, or completely rephrase it in a way you might not do if it came from one that was closer?
Yes, I think so. I think probably there is a sense of another form of translation, maybe being writing anew in a way that a language that's closer there isn't. But um, I think there's always a sense of creativity in that you should things can move around even if the language is closer. It might be better that
Mm.
way. So
That's good. Yeah. I mean, as a translator, I really like um, editors who properly intervene in the translation. You get some that are very discreet and perhaps want to change a word or something, but really have a kind of hands-off approach and minimalistic intervention. And you have others that say, well, let's just turn this completely around and do something else and still say the same thing. And those do tend to be my favorite editors.
well, I think the point is to
Yeah.
hold on to the effect, really, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there
And the
is,
meaning, what's being
yeah,
said and the effect. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So I think there is more creativity there than yeah, that yeah, and I enjoy that personally.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this chat we're having is part of the advanced Italian workshop at BCLT,
Yeah.
and I recently read one of your translated books, Perfection, which was
Yeah.
fantastic, and translated by Sophie Hughes.
Yeah.
Um, can we talk about that a little bit? I know you didn't edit it yourself, but your colleague did, I think.
Yes, my colleague Jack edited it, and I hit him up for an anecdote on the translation process because I knew we would be talking about translations from Italian, and I haven't worked on an Italian book yet.
Mm,
So this was a book that Jacques and I read on submission, and it had been translated by the author. So his English is
oh
really good.
wow, yeah.
So we'd read it in his translation, and we loved it. And Jacques acquired the book, and but we felt that the book would be better served with a translator who had a lot of experience publishing and translation. And
Mm,
we'd worked with Sophie Hughes before, and we knew that she wanted to start working in translation in Italian because she lives in Italy, and
lives in Italy, yeah.
it felt like this could maybe be the perfect project for her to work on. And one of the conversations around the translation was on the title. So the book is a reframing of Georges Perec's The Things, and in Italian, the book is in fact really called The Perfections. And Sophie and Jacques felt that, I mean, the book is very much about kind of curation and
Mm,
you know, creating something clean and structured and sort of like, yeah, a kind of aesthetic purity that people are maybe striving for. And the feeling was that the title, The Perfections, felt kind of clunky in English and antithetical to the spirit of the text. And so yeah, they decided on Perfection as the title. And I think maybe to begin with, Vincenzo Latronico, who's the author of the book, was a little bit resistant, but then he kind of bought into it, and I definitely think that was the right decision. So yeah.
Because it's about the abstract ideal of perfection. The Dutch is
Yeah.
actually called the perfections, de perfecties as well.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's a good one. And this is interesting because it sounds like you commissioned the translator. So no translator approached you with this project, but you bought the rights based on the self translation, and
Yeah,
then
that's right.
you approached Sophie,
Yes.
and then did you get a sample from her? What was that process?
Yes, I think we did get a sample from her.
Hmm.
And you know, obviously to see if she want, you know, obviously number one, you know, would she be interested in it? She loved it. And
Yeah.
yeah, did a sample and yeah, we were really excited to work with her again. You know, I think she's a really fantastic writer and
Hmm.
has a real creative flair. So um yeah, that was, you know, and it felt like an exciting avenue to be moving with her into a new language. But I mean, other times I suppose it's different. You can maybe approach multiple translators for samples, or sometimes projects come from translators directly. Yeah, the way in which yeah, books and translation come to be acquired or come to fruition, and how we work with translators, I think differs from project to project.
Let's talk about how you assess translation. So there's two phases. There's assessing a translation when you're thinking of commissioning that translator, and
Hmm.
there's assessing the translation when it comes into you delivered, and then thinking about how you're going to approach whether you think, "Yay, this is fantastic," or whether you think, "Oh my God, I've got my work set out." Let's talk about the first one. So when you're choosing a translator based on samples, how do you assess them?
So if we've got multiple samples from different translators. Again, I think this will depend slightly on if I can read the source language, because maybe then I'll be able, you know, I've got something that I'm basing that judgment against. If I can't, which is, as I said, most of the time,
Mm,
I think it's just, you know, it's frankly just which one reads the best. And I think it's quite hard for me
yeah,
to say what that means exactly, but the one that is a book that I want to read, basically. Um,
that's really the writing skills, the
yeah,
translator's writing skills.
yeah, yeah. And I guess, you know, you will be taking a certain level of, have a certain, well, it depends on how established a translator is, but I mean, you know, you're, as ever with these things, you are trusting. If you don't know the source language, you can't obviously be like, oh, I think this is the slightly wrong meaning. You're looking
Mm,
the um at the writing skills, and you know, we commission a lot of reports before we acquire books, so you know, I think ideally we have quite a well-rounded sense of what the stylistic intent is of a text and things like that. So even if I haven't got the primary judgment of the original, I'll be having things in my mind as to what other people who are better equipped than I have said.
yeah, yeah. When I was an editor, translations would come in various degrees of polishness, let's
Mm.
say, and some translations would hand in rather rough work. Has that been your experience, and how have you handled that?
uh, when people have delivered a manuscript.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
no, I think we've been really, really lucky to work with some really, really wonderful translators who've yeah, who've all done really fantastic jobs, and um yeah. But I mean, I think as ever with all of these things, I mean, even if someone's fantastic, I think sometimes things need more work than others. It might be very tricky. And if it's
Mm,
tricky, it just needs more heads on it.
yeah, that's
And
nice. Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's the
That's very
same.
generous.
as well with the English language books. Some books are delivered and they don't really need much at all, and others need quite a lot of structural work. But I enjoy all of it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's teamwork, isn't it? And I think editors often don't get the recognition they deserve for all the input and all the editing and all the improvements that are made.
Yeah, well, I think it's I enjoyed that it's collaborative work. Yeah, and just in general, I think all of publishing, lots of, it takes a lot of people to get a book out and published well, and yeah, it's just all lots of it's a big collaborative effort. So
and Fitzcarraldo, do you put translators on the cover yet? Is that on the back of the cover, perhaps?
We have translators on the back cover, yes. Don't have them on the front cover, but we have them, yeah, like I said, prominently on the back and everywhere inside of the book. And this is obviously a very big conversation. We always are very prominent in making sure that translators are named in all publicity and everything like that. And we offer royalties and we offer good terms. So I mean, there are lots of different aspects to this. I know it's something that people feel very strongly about, but I would like to think that the translators that we work with feel valued and enjoy the experience and have their work recompensed fairly. And I think that's a big part of it.
What I was going with that was not towards that whole debate, but to crediting the editor, whether the editor is credited inside, like edited by.
Oh, yes, no, we don't do that.
Yeah, think about it. It's not such a crazy idea to have like on the copyright page, like the editor credited as well.
I do like that certain publishing houses do have the whole team in the back. I think the issue with a smaller company is that there'll just be lots of names repeated.
Right.
It might start to. I think we sort of maybe like to not advertise how small the team is. But
right,
yeah. But yeah.
So just before we go to the questions, I wanted to know if you had any tips for translators.
For working on translators or for approaching editors?
Tips on on delivering work, on doing their work, on things you wish translators were better at or did more of.
In terms of delivering work, I mean, I think yeah, ideally, I suppose if there's follow the style guide and all of that kind of stuff and have a fairly not fairly clean manuscript, not loads of typos, so there isn't unnecessary things to be needing to correct. I mean, that's all obviously really helpful. I think otherwise what I would say is I think this applies to editors as well as translators, it's just to feel free to be creative with things. I mean, obviously it needs to be faithful, and what that means is contested, obviously, but to the original, but to not be scared of being maybe more creative with some of the challenges. But otherwise, I guess in terms of just approaching editors, I'd probably say look carefully at the lists of publishing houses. If you can, try and see what different editors are requiring and be very targeted in who you approach. And maybe make yourself available for reader reports. That's a good way for editors to have a sense of your style, your interest, whether or not you know their list. So I think, yeah, just things that kind of help build a sense of trust and just a knowledge of each other is good.
Thank you. And my tips for editors, not you, obviously, but editors who are watching this is, as a translator, what I wish is that every editor would send me the production schedule, so I know when I'm going to get the corrections. It's really hard. They always come just before Christmas or just before the summer holidays. The editors like round off their work and then send me a translation edited, be returned in, like, you normally have like 2 or 3 weeks, but then those 2 or 3 weeks are often my summer holiday or the Christmas holidays. And the other thing is that like 2 or 3 publishers might all send their manuscripts at the exact same time. And so I've got, double work at exactly the same time, and 2 weeks with nothing for that, and 2 weeks. So so the planning is really hard as a translator. So it'd be really nice if editors could be really clear about when things are going to come back to us.
Yes, I try to lay out a framework and timelines, but I think I am also probably guilty of but I think I'm always I'm always conscious of finding out what else is going on, because you can say give it back,
send it back, just that conversation.
It's allowing the fact that on things, it's always hard. Lots of people's schedules will be moving around, and so inevitably if one's delayed on the other side, I'm aware if I'm like, it's going to be later, that then maybe I'm not going to get it back as quickly as I want, but that's on me.
Usually when I say, oh sorry, you've 3 people delivered this week and I'm going on holiday next week, they usually just say, oh, I'll have a bit longer. So it's not usually a problem, but it's stressful because I like to be totally efficient. I want everything back on time, and but I'm going to open the Q&A section and have a look at what people have been saying. Okay, the first one is, what is the best time to submit a translation book proposal?
I would probably say depends on when the book came out, but I'd maybe avoid the fair time, because editors are already really quite busy, and maybe you'll get them more open and have a bit more free time if you avoid particularly London Book Fair and Frankfurt Book Fair.
So London's in March now. Used to be in April. London's in March and Frankfurt's just been in October.
Yeah, exactly. And around that time is just sort of very busy, and there's
3 weeks before to 3 weeks after it.
Yeah, I would probably say avoid those. I mean, unless you're hoping to try and meet a translator if you're hoping to meet an editor at a book fair. I mean, obviously maybe email and meet them and then talk to them over coffee if they've got time or something, but I wouldn't probably send an email then and that's it, just because it'll probably get lost in the stream.
When you say check the copy edits, do you mean you see every stage of commenting, responding between translator and freelance copy editor? Whenever I've done both of these stages, that in-house editor hasn't been able to see all the comments, discussions, and track changes.
Right. What normally happens is we'll send the book out to the copy editor, and then I'll get it back from the copy editor, and I will look through what the copy edits are, and I'll maybe have a sense of some of the things that are being discussed. Depending on what they are, if I mean, this is maybe slightly different because I'm thinking maybe a bit more with English language books where maybe the changes are a bit more consequential, but and the author may not love all the notes. I'll maybe go through and I will look and I'll flag the ones that I think are really good and strong points or something. And then it doesn't necessarily, there aren't necessarily conversations between the freelance copy editor and the author. It'll usually maybe then be between me and the author, unless something needs to go back to the copy editor for whatever reason. But at that point, I will then pass it on to the translator, and they'll work on everything. And then if there's still some things that they're not sure about, they'll ask me, and we'll sort of tidy up the manuscript together at that point.
Yeah, there can be a lot of to and fro, can't there? In some cases. Yeah. Two people have asked, how long do you give your translators to translate the book?
I can't really say on that, because it will depend on how long the book is, and it will also depend maybe on if they've got something else beforehand to work on, and it'll depend on if we want to publish something really quickly. So I don't know, it could be 6 months to a year to 2 years. I don't know. It's kind of, I can't
Yeah,
really.
no, but that's about average, I'd say. Six months to a year. And maybe 2 years if it's like a really thick book, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's fairly reasonable. I mean, some publishers who aren't very experienced with publishing translations sometimes want something in like 3 weeks or 6 weeks or something, but you just have to explain to them that's not going to happen. It really does happen. Yeah. Do you ever do a sample edit for your translators?
Before we've Yes, I have done that. So that the translator has a sense of maybe what the work will be like. Also, I think sometimes opportunities arise. So, for example, if we are trying to we're submitting an application for a pen translates um, um, award.
Mm,
That's usually kind of maybe quite an early moment where there'll be a quick edit of the sample, and that will maybe give a sense of what the editorial process will be like. Yeah, I think.
yeah. So with pen translates, you have to submit something before the translation has happened then.
Yes, or it could be happening, but usually it's quite early on, and so
Mm,
it can be quite a helpful exercise actually, because you're getting a lot of material together at quite a long time ahead of the publication and thinking about the book, and you have to include a sample on that. So
mm,
that's maybe sometimes an opportunity to have that kind of conversation on a small scale. But
yeah.
generally, otherwise, I don't think so. I think normally it'll just wait until delivery.
Yeah, because you've got so much going on as an editor. It's hard to kind of find time to do something like that. Just a little bit and then not do the whole edit in one go, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think as we were saying earlier, I kind of obviously by and large want to be able to immerse myself in it. And also some things,
Mm.
you can't really decide until you've read the whole thing.
Hmm.
Because your opinion would change. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's maybe too early to do a proper edit, but I suppose yeah, you can have a sort of a quick one.
I mean, as a translator, I'd love to have like a sample edit in the same way that we produce samples. It would be really nice if editors
Yeah,
also had to
see if you
produce
have a sense of what
samples.
it's like. Yeah. Maybe we can
Yeah,
start introducing that.
yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. Does it ever come up that there are sensitive, offensive, politically incorrect sections that have already been published in the original you feel should be readdressed for the translation? How is this handled?
Yes.
Hmm.
This does happen, and usually then you'll either, yeah, it'll be conversation between the editor and the translator to begin with, and then I think it goes to the author or whoever's handling the rights to maybe explain that it will not land properly, or
Mm.
time's passed and it will need modifying. So yeah, I'm trying to think of an example, and I know we've had these conversations before, but I can't think of an example off the top of my head. I don't know if you can, Michelle.
So I'm willing to go into.
Yeah.
I'll talk
But
to you
it
about it
happens.
privately, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It happens, and I think most of the time people are understanding that yeah, different cultures have different sensitivities, and that often there isn't really any purpose in keeping that in the text.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it happens very often that very small things get tweaked.
Mm.
Because, like you say, they'll land differently, and it's the bigger things that sometimes authors might put their foot down because they just
Mm.
simply don't understand how
Mm.
another culture could view it so differently. But
Mm.
again, it's all these things you just have to have careful conversations about them, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's have a look. Who has the final word usually when the editor and translator are odds about a certain edit?
Uh, um, I don't know. I don't really like this idea of a final word. I mean, like by and large, I probably would say it's the translator. Most of the time I would be making suggestions, and it's the translator's translation, but I don't know, I guess if something were like really egregious, but that doesn't normally happen. I don't think there's ever been I've ever had a very strongly contentious issue on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I've had things where the editor and I have had different solutions in mind, and then we've gone back and forth and we've tried them out, and the translation has like shifted like maybe 5 or 6 times that we've tried out different approaches until we settle on one that everyone's happy with, and then in those cases that line or whatever it is that's troublesome might get extracted out and emailed back and forth. And
yeah, that happens definitely. You're just sort of slowly, but that doesn't necessarily, that feels like that's the
just part of the process.
Yeah. Like one of you will suggest something and then you'll be like, not quite this, but yeah. I think, that's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah. And then it's not the last word. It's like coming to the best solution together as a team, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think there's someone asked, how does Tamara feel about translators leaving notes in a manuscript? We kind of addressed that at the beginning of the session, to describe an approach they took at certain times to unknot something, or is a cover letter giving broad strokes about the manuscript better after they've been commissioned?
I think by and large, I probably would prefer a broader cover letter if it's going to be coming up a lot, because then maybe that's going to be quite distracting, and I don't know. Yeah. If there's something very particular in the text, then it's good to have it flagged. But I think more of a if it's more of a general overview, it would be better.
Oh, there's quite a lot of questions. I'm trying to get through as many as I can. I've just seen what I missed about bilingual copy editing. It's a bit of a long question. Let's see if I can shorten it. My impression is that publishers and editors don't seem to value the importance of bilingual copy editing. This is by someone who does that, which is why I don't do it very much anymore. Am I wrong about this? Are there publishers in the UK who want bilingual copy editors for translated texts?
Yes, I mean, I think it's certainly helpful to have. I mean, I don't know that we would necessarily go out of our way to find a bilingual copy editor unless we knew that there was something quite tricky about the entire process or something, and it would be good to have that. But I think always with any copy editing job, you are thinking about what expertise that copy editor has that they can bring to it. So sometimes, I mean, maybe it wouldn't necessarily be the language, obviously that could help, but maybe if it's the source, maybe it's if the topic's involved, or they have experience of that, then we'll be thinking about all of those things when working out who to send a copy editing job to.
Yeah, that's also really important with the copy editor, that they understand the subject matter or the setting or the context.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think by the time manuscript gets to copy editing phase, it's an English object. I mean, it's become English. It's already the thing. Yeah. Hopefully, in any case. Yeah. Although not to put bilingual copy editors down, I mean, that's also fantastic if you can do all those things, if you know about the content and you speak the original language. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have another look in questions. This was kind of related to that. With a publisher who is inexperienced with editing and the process of translation, can it be a good idea to send a translation to a third-party editor with more experience?
So if a publisher is not experienced,
with editing the process, so not you. So we're going to have to advise people who were not you, but editors who have not done translations before. Would it be better to send the translation to a third-party editor with more experience?
I don't know. I mean, I think I mean, I guess I've learned a lot from working in a company where we did translation, and therefore I could learn from other editors before me. But I suppose if you're a publisher who's never done any translation, if you feel it would be helpful, I think maybe you can do it. I don't know. I mean, I do think it's one of the things about editing, I think, is that it just takes time and it takes experience. So I don't know. I think you could. I don't think you have to, but I think if you wanted to, you.
Yeah, I mean, as a translator, obviously we don't have budget to like pay. Well, I don't. Can't imagine many people have the budget to pay for an external editor and then send it to the publisher.
No.
So
that was that the question. So I couldn't quite see it. So the idea
yeah,
is
it's right at the bottom. It's the last one.
Should the translator send it to another editor?
Well, it doesn't say. So should it be sent? So I wonder whether they also might think about the translator sending it themselves. I would send it to another translator if I wanted. If I wasn't sure that the editing was going to be up to scratch because it was a publishing house that had no experience, then I would perhaps do a swap with another translator where someone else looked at it for me, and in exchange I looked at something they'd done.
Yeah,
would seem more practical approach.
I think, however, probably if an editor has experience editing books, they should be okay. I mean, they'll obviously gain more experience as they do more in translation, but if they've got editing
true
already,
they've got to start somewhere. Yeah, and if they've got editing, yeah,
they'll probably be bringing the right skill set most of the table.
Actually, often editors who haven't done translations before are more hands-on. They're more intrusive in their editing, and because they would treat it like you'd treat something being delivered in English that just wasn't finished.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've got time for one last question. Oh, so sorry, there's so many in here.
No.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, some of them people might have to ask afterwards or write it in about. Is it usual for an author or translator to submit a work to you? How often does a sub-agent propose a text?
Yes. I mean, we have I mean, books come to you in lots of different ways, and authors do pitch directly and translators pitch directly, and I'm always really happy to have people pitch directly to me. And I think especially if we're talking about books in translation, I mean, if it's a book in translation and the author is pitching directly, I guess the question is what they're sending and if I can read it properly. I mean, translators are like incredible scouts and are fantastic and know the territory so well. I'm very conscious of the fact that a lot of times pitching involves a lot of unpaid labor. But unfortunately, I suppose on my end, what's helpful as an editor, I'm aware is a lot of work on the part of the translator. Authors probably do also, but I think if they are maybe submitting their own sample translation and it's not very good, then that's not necessarily the most helpful way of contacting an editor, because I'm probably not going to really be taken with it. Whereas if it had a proper translation sample, then I would be thinking differently. But yeah, it happens, and it's I've definitely published books from that, and I think it's really worthwhile for editors to do that. I don't know how you find it, Michelle.
I kind of gave up pitching stuff because it wasn't working. It was a lot of, you spend a lot of energy, and I have to love a book so much that I just basically translate it whatever. To spend time banging my head on that paywall. But
well, that's it. I am conscious it's a lot of work, and also just, I mean, I think that, you know, agents probably have this as well, but that, you know, well, there's a lot of wonderful books out there and a lot of emails coming in, and it can just be quite hard, I think. You know, inevitably there are only so many places on a publisher's list. So
yeah, you've got a lot coming in as well. You've got your work set out, I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think everyone's.
Thank you so much, Tamara. It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for all the excellent work you're doing as a translations editor. It's so nice to hear your approach, and it's really inspiring and generous and warm and encouraging for us translators.
Oh, thank you. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for all the questions, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to the sponsors. Once again, I won't list them, but I did at the beginning. Sorry we didn't get through all the questions. I can be approached on social media, Tamara too, presumably, if you want to ask any of those things that I didn't get onto. Thank you everyone, and I'm going to end the session. Thanks,
All right.
and bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.